Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and happy Sunday, April 24th of 2022. I hope you're all well, and I have a very beautiful, very relevant message for you today. And this is protecting and nurturing our humanness. This seems extra important in the times that we're in, but we need to remember that as human beings, we are messy. It's emotional. We have drama and we have trauma, and there's all kinds of things that come at us that we are not perfect at navigating. But this is the way that it is, and this is the way that it always has been. But if you think about how new we are really as a species to the power of technology, we're still navigating all of this and how it relates to us without taking that big, beautiful human piece out, because that is something that we need to protect and nurture. So I have this little list I put together of a few things that I've kind of thought over this last week that have seemed very, not only relevant, but very impactful. So the very first thing is that with so much information out there, how do we know what to believe? How do we know what is true? Now, this might ebb and flow. One truth might be something for you. Another truth, completely opposite, might be true for someone else. And this is where we get to respect not only different truths and different perspectives, but also something that might be true for us as a child, as a teenager, as a person in our 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s might be different when we're 60, 70, or 80. And we need to not only respect our own growth and our own learning, but others as well. And this is where it can get really hard because we want so badly for people to see our perspective and where we are. And especially if you've been a person who's done a lot of personal development, who does a lot of research, who knows and feels the truth for you, you want so badly to share. And I was actually thinking, think about when you simply set an example and you live in your truth with peace and calmness, and there's no wavering. There's only calm, beautiful, I'm living in my truth. What happens is this is an easier way to share your perspective because others are going to want that peace that you have, that PEACE, and also a piece of what you have. And I think that that can be the hardest thing for us as humans who think we know the truth, we know we have the truth, even if it's something, like I said, that you feel in this deepest intuition part of you. So what I would encourage you to do is listen to your own truth and then live it and be unwavering. And then live your life with joy and with fun. Have fun. Don't try to convince someone else of your point of view. I think that one should be at the top of the list because it is so relevant in today's world. Now, the second thing is learning to let go. Now, this came about because I was struggling with a friend who a couple of years ago, in the about just at the beginning of the whole pandemic in 2020, um, there was a situation between this dear close friend of mine that was very hurtful for me. And just this last week, as I was having a conversation with my husband about going out to see this friend, she reached out. I really didn't want to see her, but I did want to see her. And I brought up this thing that happened 2 years ago. And I was just venting and getting it off my chest. And I was in my emotional mind reliving this circumstance, this thing that happened. And I was still holding on to those feelings of resentment and a little bit of anger at what this friend perceivedly did to me. And my husband said to me, uh, you just need to let that go. And I was like, I was thinking, I just need you to listen to me. I don't need you to tell me what to do. And I said, well, I'm going to go out of the room. And I got a little bit huffy and I left and I was like, I just went to a different room and I'm like, okay, fine. I just need to get that off my chest. And you weren't really listening to me. And what I realized, because I sat with that for just a minute and I really thought, oh my gosh, he's right. I need to let that go. Like, how am I evolving and learning if I'm hanging on to this anger, frustrated, this hurt, this perceived hurt that I had over something that was actually, it was a real moment. There were real emotions involved. And I've seen this friend many times over the past couple of years. She's a very good friend. But for some reason, that memory bubbled up in me and I was still hanging on to it. And I had this huge moment of, I could physically feel that emotion release from me. And I was mad at my husband for a minute because I was like, how dare you not just listen to me and tell me that, that you understand, and yeah, those feelings are legitimate. And it was like, good heavens, I just needed to let that go. And this is a person, me, who read this beautiful book by Michael Singer called Letting Go, and it's all about that. And I read that probably 10 years ago, and I've read it like 4 or 5 times. So it might be time for me to pick that book back up, reabsorb some of that beautiful information, and practice it and realize that when I'm caught in that moment of these stuck emotions from things that happened, might even be something last week that happened that I got worked up about, learning to let these things go quicker and fully, because that is the whole message there. So that one to me is really, really awesome. Okay, now the third one on here, and I really love this one because this is so relevant right now. We must remove ourselves from platforms that dehumanize us. Think about any social media platform that you scroll around on. There's always people and events and things that are happening that seem better than you, better than your life, better than anything you're doing. Their page is more beautiful. Their life looks more beautiful. They look fitter and skinnier and healthier and going on more trips and not being as stressed out about, like, whatever that might be. There are things on these different technology platforms that literally dehumanize us. And this is something I work on, and I actually have gotten very, very good at this. I am not perfect at pulling myself off of some platforms. My favorite platform is YouTube. I can go on and I have tons of inspirational people I follow, and I really try to get the most out of it so that it can actually lift me up. And I would suggest that you find platforms that lift you up and bring back your humanness. There's one particular channel, I can't remember the name of it, but it's a guy who narrates near-death experiences where he takes people that have written in their near-death experience, and it's just this beautiful, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, sometimes 20 minutes, and he's just basically reading these people's stories. There's beautiful cinematography that is on this channel, and he's telling the stories of all these people who've had near-death experiences, and it's beautiful. And I might pop one up in the morning after I've done my little morning meditation and everything that I've been doing, then I have my little routine in the morning, and I might pop one open and just let that inspire me for the day. So I would really say, get out, socialize, get off of these platforms that dehumanize you. Be with other humans. And I have a couple of really beautiful examples of this, a couple of stories. So last weekend, me and my husband had a little wine dinner, wine party, and he put together this whole meal. And I might have even talked about this last week, but my husband loves to cook, and he's a very, very, very good cook. And so he puts together these meals where he'll match a certain wine with a certain food. And he put together this beautiful meal. And we invited 3 couples, and my sister from LA was in town. So there was 3 other couples, me and my husband and my sister. And it was I always set the table, and some of our favorite friends, they showed up. We had this most beautiful dinner. And what was so perfect about it is not one person brought their phone with them to the table. There was just connection, and there was enjoyment and physical human communication with each other. And to me, that is what it's all about. is when we realize that we have the power to bring these situations together, bring people together. And this is where an example comes in. Set the example. I have a friend that I meet, and every single time we meet for breakfast, he always shows up with his phone. And my phone is usually either in my car or in my bag, but his phone is right there front and center next to his plate. Never, ever does he not have his phone there. And I think when that happens, you send a message to the people that you love that if there's a notification, if there's something that you want to check, even if it's just the time, this is more important than the people that you're with. And I've actually caught myself in mid-conversation with not just this friend, but other people and other situations where there might be a conversation happening. I might be in the middle of saying something. The person looks at their phone and is distracted by their phone, even momentarily. And I've literally stopped a conversation and the person doesn't even realize that I've stopped talking. Now that's an extreme example. It is a real example, but that is exactly what's happening. So if we can take that piece of technology and a platform that dehumanizes us and remove that from the equation on a really regular basis, then this is one part that we can do to protect and nurture our humanness. I think that's really, really important. Now, the second story I have for this, which I truly love, is as many of you know, I come from a really big family, lots of siblings. There's 9 girls and 5 boys. So I have lots of nieces and nephews, and I have a beautiful 12-year-old niece. She just turned 12 this month. And what I like to do is I like to take out not only my grandkids that are all around the same age, because I have all these younger siblings that have kids that are the age of my grandkids, but I like to do a one-on-one date. So this week on Thursday, I took out my 12-year-old niece for her birthday, and we went to this fun restaurant, and in fact, it was fun because I said, okay, well, here's a couple of options. You pick which restaurant you want to go to. And she picked a restaurant that she'd never, it was a little bit of a nicer restaurant. And she doesn't really get to experience this kind of stuff on a regular basis, but it was the funnest thing. And one of the most beautiful things that she said that just reminded me about our humanness is I asked her what her favorite thing about spring was. And she said, it's dancing in the rain and stomping in rain puddles. And I was like, oh my gosh, we need to remember to celebrate the things that happen in nature. And most of us will do whatever we can not to get wet with an umbrella, putting our hood over our head. When we go in on a rainstorm, if we're pulling up to our house or we're going into a store and it's raining, we do everything we can and we complain about the rain. And we complain about getting wet, and then we're all like, whatever. So that was just a really beautiful reminder of we need to enjoy these seasons. We need to enjoy the wind. In fact, she even said, I love going out into a windstorm and howling into the wind. And I always wonder how far it's going to carry. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, as adults, we need to remember that kid-like, childlike piece of us that wants to come out and play. That's a beautiful part about being human. Okay, number 4, what happens when you change? Okay, this is a really great question because this again is about being human. And when we learn and we grow, we change. So what happens when we change? How do you open the hearts, perspectives, and minds of others? So this is what you do. You set an example. And I brought this up at the very beginning of this. You don't try to convince someone. You don't try to hammer your points home. You be the living, breathing, beautiful example of what your change of heart, what your perspective, you live your perspective relentlessly. You live it with the exact knowledge that you are living your life the way that you want to live your life, not the way you expect others to live their life. I think this is one of the biggest things that divides us right now. If you are living your life and you are happy in your decisions, no matter what they are, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's for the greater good. And so I'm saying if you want to go out and do harm to somebody and you should let someone else go out and do harm to somebody. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if someone believes politically differently than you, if someone believes differently about what's been going on these last couple of years, and there's things that they have done that you wouldn't do. You know, why do we care so hard now? I know there's reasons that we should care, but what I'm talking about is the best way for you to show that you've changed, especially for the good, because we all are changing. Some of us it's more exponential than others, and we might really feel that on a deep level. But the best thing that you can do is live in your truth with absolute calmness and serenity and peace in your heart. Don't waver. Don't waver. Here's one thing that I do, and I wanted to share this too. And you might notice as I've been talking here, my background has changed, right? Okay, so this week, as a lot of things happen, I had the floors redone in my office here. And when I sat down to do this video, none of the things that are behind me, except for the shelf unit was there. It looked like, oh my gosh, this is so bare and so boring. But I set up some of my artwork back there on the shelf. So this is what I do. When I feel like I need to center in because I get a little bit overwhelmed or frustrated with because I want to share what I do and I want others people's perspectives to be open. I want to open people's hearts and minds. What I've really found is I will do art and I will doodle and I will draw. And what I've done I've probably been doing the painting for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years now, but it's really, really, really dialed into a very high level. So the 3 paintings that are up there are ones I've done. Here's a little one. I just brought this. This is one of the first ones that I did. This is acrylic pouring. And this is just something really, really fun that's just been resonating with me. It's very creative. My mind, if you think about something that you do that's creative, it calms your mind because you're flowing out different things into the world besides just being in your mind and putting out angst. Now, another thing that I've done, and I've actually been doing this for probably 4 or 5 years, but like I said, this is heightened up so much that I almost can't do anything without doing this. So these are just doodles. And I get a blank piece of paper and look at these. I just doodle. And I kind of can't help myself. In fact, I want to show you this just because I find when I simply can keep my creative piece going, that it actually brings calmness and serenity to me. So this is a notebook that I was writing down notes for today. And you can see on the other page here are just, as I was thinking and writing down some ideas, I was just doodling. So I'm not saying you have to do any of that. And you might think I'm kind of crazy, but here's the thing. This is what calms me. This is what, when I'm pouring my art, like my art back there, as I'm letting this art flow and I'm making these with what I feel is beautiful, it brings me calmness and serenity and a peace of mind. And I think that if we can all do this, this might be playing the piano, playing a different instrument. This might be writing. Maybe you're a blogger, maybe you're an author, maybe you're someone who does rock work or you garden or whatever it is that you do that's creative. If we can get these creative juices flowing, this is such a deep part of what makes us human that from what I've seen, so many people are bringing this piece of themselves back because they understand the serenity that it gives us. So that one to me is super fun. And I thought, let me give a little pop to my background here before I think I'm going to add some other stuff. My boys keep telling me I need to plant a couple plants behind me. So don't be surprised if next week it looks a little bit different. So I still got my little Himalayan sea salt over there. That thing actually weighs 70 pounds and it puts out really good vibes and good energy. And I've had it for a really long time. So that's my Himalayan sea salt. Now, the last thing on here is, I think really kind of ties all these things together, but this is to try not to lead with your emotions or your analytical mind. Okay, so think about that. Try not to lead with your emotions or your analytical mind. Too often we get caught up in this emotional storm, and then on the other side of it, we get caught in this analytical, so cut and dry, fact-based, and I'm not saying you shouldn't pay attention to the facts or pay attention to your emotions. What I'm saying is that don't get caught in either so high emotions or it's all about the analytics and it's all about the facts. This is where we need to tune in and pay attention to the human part of us, our heart, our intuition, our gut. How do we feel? What are we feeling? And I'm not talking about the emotional part of a feeling. I'm talking about that centered piece of us that makes us human. How do we feel? And if we tune into that, it will never guide us wrong. It will bring us a ton of peace of mind. And that's what we're really all after. We're all here to learn, to grow, to evolve, and to help others around us do the same thing, which I think is really beautiful. So I think in conclusion, this might be a lot to unpack. I hope I was able to bring this all together with some clarity, really what I wanted to bring across to you today. I think that this year, as it goes on, as we continue to, we're almost a third of the way through this year. And I hope that you've had moments of clarity and positivity and a realization of your impact on humanity. It ripples out. It ripples out into these beautiful things that, there's quantum entanglement where what we put out goes way farther out than we can even imagine. And if we can realize that and put that out every single day, catch ourselves when we don't maybe do it like we would like to, like my little moment of having an issue with my friend from 2 years ago, take those moments, learn from them, grow from them, and say, you know what, that's what makes me human, and I'm okay with it, and I'm going to really work on that, and I'm going to get better at it. So thank you so much for being there. I hope you have the most beautiful Sunday ever. I would really love to hear what it is that you do. Like, okay, you've seen some of my little quirky art things. What is it that you love to do? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. That lets me know that you are on board, and I know that you're there. So I hope you have the most beautiful Sunday. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.